So I think what might be interesting to do is take a program that we've already written and re-envision that program with methods. So here's a program that we already wrote when we were exploring the idea of repetition. It's called a guessing game with a loop. So the idea of the game is that you try to guess a number. So here we have the number right here. And we're going to try to guess it. So let's just run it. Okay, guess a number. We'll say, I guess 50. It says too high. I guess 40. It says too low. I guess 42. And it says it's the correct number. Okay, cool. So how can we take this program, guessing game with a loop, and modify it so that we're using methods instead of having one giant main program? And can it make the program look more readable, like more understandable? So to do this, what I'm going to do is create a second program, a new program, and we're going to call this programmer defined methods guessing game. Whew, that's kind of a long name, but there you have it. Okay, and we're going to copy all the code from guessing game here, right here. And we're going to call this programmer defined methods guessing game. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to take all the code that's here in the main program, and I want to turn the main program into an outline for the game. Okay, and well, maybe we'll improve the game as well. Instead of hard coding the secret to be the value of 42, maybe we'll add a random number generator in here so that we can automatically determine the secret number each time the game is played. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the name of the main program here. I'm just going to give it the name Splunge. I like Monty Python, and there's a really great sketch called the Splunge sketch. So you should check it out. I'm sure it's on YouTube. But it's basically a good name for something that you can't think of a good name for. You say Splunge. Okay, so instead, we're going to write a brand new public static void main program. And it's going to become a sketch for us. Public static void main string args. Okay. All right. So let's think about the outline of the program. All right. We've got a good outline right here, right? So the outline of the program is the first thing we do is we guess a secret number. So we're going to create a variable here. I'll create a variable here called secret. And we're going to set it equal to get random number. Okay. And so get random number is going to return us a value between 1 and 100. All right. Once we have the secret, what we're going to do is we're going to have this do while loop, right? We have that. And then inside the do while loop, we're going to, well, we'll say we have to declare a guess out here. Just following along with the main program up there. We're going to say guess is equal to, well, there's a lot of work that goes in guessing a number, right? So we'll say get guess, right? And then what we're going to do is we've got this code here that's figuring out if guess is bigger than, less than, or equal to the secret, right? So what we could write here is, wow, how about this? This would be cool. Well, is not correct guess. Okay, and oh, we better pass in guess, and we better pass in secret. All right, so what I want you to do is don't focus on the code up here. We can just pretend that Splunge doesn't exist. I want you to look at this main program and see if the main program makes sense. Like if you looked at that main program without looking at all that other stuff. In fact, I'm going to hide that so we don't really look at it. Oops, I don't want to do that. I'm going to hide this, hide Splunge. If we just focus on this main program, does this main program make sense without thinking about the details of how get random number, how get guess, and how is not correct guess work? So let's take a look at the program. We get a random number, we get a guess, and we do this do while loop as long as the guess is not correct. While is not correct guess, I guess we could say is correct guess, and we can nod it like this. While is not, so that means if is correct guess returns false, the while loop will continue. If is correct guess returns true, the while loop ends. That's nice. Okay, so as long as is correct guess returns false, we're going to keep executing this do loop. So think about that. That's a pretty good outline of what this program is supposed to do without thinking about the details. Do we need to think about the details of how we get a random number? I mean, it involves math random, but do we have to worry about the equation for that, the expression for that? No. We just are going to say we call get random number and set secret to that. Do we have to worry about a scanner and what the print statement's supposed to look like and all the things we're supposed to do with that print statement in get guess? No. Get guess just returns a guess. And then once we have that guess, do we have to worry about the details of how the guess is checked in order to figure out whether it's correct or not? No, not at this point in the main program. This is a really nice outline for how the guessing game is supposed to work. So why don't we take this and write some stubs? All right, so here we go. Get random number. Okay, so we're going to write a method called get random number, public static int get random number. Okay, and get random number is going to return a random number, but see, we're writing a stub, so we don't have to write the code for it to return a random number yet, so we'll just have it return 42. Every time we call get random number, it returns 42. All right, so we also need to write the code for get guess. So public static int get guess. So this represents the guess that the user is going to do. Now we're going to have to fill this in with more detail later, but for right now, we can say the guess the user made is 50. We're going to assume the user is just going to guess 50. And finally, is correct guess. There's a lot of work that that method has to do, but all we have to do right now is make sure that it compiles and does something. All right. So if I say public static, by the way, what type is correct guess return? Let's think about this. We have a lot of choices. We have integers and doubles and booleans and characters and floats and longs. So what is a good value here? Well, if you look at this while loop, the while loop includes is correct guess as part of a Boolean expression. And the Boolean expression better return true or false, which means that is correct guess, since we're nodding it, better return true or false. So the correct type here, the correct return type is Boolean. And is correct guess takes two arguments, guess and secret. So is correct guess, int guess, and int secret. All right. And what we could do here is we can return false. Okay, we can return true or false. Whatever we want to do here, doesn't matter. We just have to have it return something. All right. So Let's compile and run this now. Now remember, these methods don't actually do anything other than get the program to compile. All right, so let's compile and run and see what happens. Doesn't look like anything. Well, I didn't get any compiler errors, but it seems like the program's stuck here. I wonder why that would be. Well, let's go back and look at, you see how it's just hanging out here? Nothing's happening. It doesn't expect any input. All right, let's go back and look at the code. I think we have an infinite loop. If is correct returns false, then this Boolean expression, while not is correct guess, is going to return true. And that means that this do while loop is going to run forever. We're going to keep getting the guess of 50, and is correct guess is going to return true, false. It'll be the not in front of it will make this whole expression true, and the do while loop will just run forever. So that's not good. Why don't we change this to true? And maybe we'll make the guess 42. Even though they don't have to be equal, we can have this return any value we want, but let's just make them equal and run it. Okay, so the program ran, it compiled okay, and now, and it ran and it finished. So our hypothesis that we had an infinite loop was correct. All right, so what do we do next? Well, we now have a checklist of methods that need to be filled in. We need to fill in this one, and this one with real code so it actually does something. All right, so the code for get random number, we need to generate a random number between 1 and 100. So we need to use math.random. So I'm going to put return result there and say int result equals math.random. Now, if you remember how we do this, what you do is you think about the range you want. So we want a value between 1 and 100, and you multiply it by the top value in that range. So we're going to multiply it by 100. But if we do that, math.random will actually give us a value between 0 and 99. So in order to get a value between 1 and 100, we also add 1 to the result. Now the result of this expression is going to be a double because math.random returns a double. So we're going to upcast that or downcast that from a double to an int. So that should take care of our get random number. Now remember, this is a checklist. We've got 3 methods that we have to write. I just wrote the code for get random number. Let's compile and run it and make sure that it runs. Awesome, didn't have any errors. Maybe just, I'll put a piece of debugging in here that we can take out later, but it might be nice to just do a system.out.println secret number is, and we'll print out the secret number result. All right, so we compute the secret number, the random number, store it in result, and then we return result. When we return result, get random number, we'll take the result that was calculated in the method and stuff it in secret. So now secret will have that value. So okay, so let's run it again. At least we can find out what the secret number is. All right, this time when we ran it, the secret number is 28. Let's run it again. Ooh, it's 31. Let's run it again. Ooh, it's 74. So every time we run it, we're getting different secret numbers. That's awesome. Okay, now let's do get guess. So the idea of get guess is that we're going to guess a number 1 to 100 and tell the user, hey, guess a number 1 to 100, and we're going to grab the number. Now in Splunge, we've already written the code to do that. It's right here, plus the scanner. So why don't we just grab that code so we can just use it instead of typing it all over again. We'll put it right here. We need a scanner. And we could use the local variable guess, but I like to use results so I don't have to come up with new variable names every time I'm writing my code. So, and we have a system out print line here that says guess a number 1 to 100. And we're going to say result is equal to input.nextInt. Now, I could just do this. Well, let's actually do it that way. I'm just going to reorder it. So we get the scanner exactly when we need it. We're going to declare result as an int. I just want to format this. It really pays to keep your code neat and tidy. Just like your mom says, clean your room, you want to keep your code neat and tidy. And the reason why is when you go back to look at it, if you're trying to figure out why it's not working, it's much better to look at neat, tidy, clean, and organized code, because it's really going to help you when you're thinking about why your code is doing what you want it to do. Okay, and we need to return result. So we're going to say system.println, guess a number 1 to 100, create a scanner, grab that result, grab integer, and then we're going to return it to the caller. When we return the result, it's going to take get guess. That result is going to get stuffed into guess. That's exactly what we want. So let's try running this again. We got a second thing checked off our checklist. Secret number 76. Of course, the user is never going to see that. We'll comment that out later. But guess the number 1 to 100. I'm going to type 76. And then it doesn't do anything because the last method, which is checking to make sure that you guessed the correct number, that's not working yet. Okay, let's run it again. Secret number is 85. I'll do 58 this time. Again, nothing happens. That's okay because we haven't written the code to make sure that is correct guess is working. Okay. Now, I was just thinking, let's run this again. 1,987. All right, it said guess the number 1 to 100, but I entered, 10,987. Well, I took that too. It'd be kind of nice if I entered an invalid value, that value was discarded until the user entered a correct value. That might be nice. So maybe what I'll do is before we write the code for is correct guess, before we get that working, maybe what I'll do is I'll harden this get guess so that it won't allow you to leave get guess until you've entered a valid guess. All right. So I'm going to make a do while that refuses to let the user get out of this method until we've entered a correct guess. So I'm messing around with the declarations a little bit because both input and result need to be declared outside of the do while loop so we can do some comparisons. All right, and we're going to do this while result is less than 1 and result is greater than 100. All right, so if the result is outside those bounds, we're going to continue to run. So if result is less than 1, oh, sorry, I did and, I mean to do or. So if result is less than 1 or result is greater than 100, then this do while loop is going to execute again. So if you try to get sneaky and enter a value that's outside that range between 1 and 100, it's not going to work. This do while loop is going to keep you running and running and running. Okay, so let's try compiling and running that. Oops, I used or. And that's because I program in a lot of different languages. So or is perfectly valid in Python, but not in not in Java. Okay, let's try that. Ah, much better. Okay, let's say we guess the number 10,987. Oh, it prompted me to guess a number again. Okay, let's try 1,000. Nope, doesn't like that either. Let's try 99. Oh, much better. Okay, so it allowed me to pass through and return from guess a number. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you that is it might seem trivial to you it might seem that the code for get guess was trivial, right? Initially, it was just a system out print line and a scanning statement that read in an integer. But now I just made it a lot richer. I just made it something that's not only doing that, but it's also doing some error checking. And that added a lot more code. And if that stuff ends up in your main program, it's going to make your main program a lot harder to read and understand. But let's go back to the main program. Did anything change in the main program while I hardened the code for get guess? No, nothing changed. The idea of what is supposed to happen with that method, which is that it gets a guess, that idea is still there. How it works, that got more complicated. But what it's supposed to do, which is get a guess for the program, that's still the same. So I'm hoping you see that this idea of methods makes the, the process of solving problems when you're programming easier, because you don't have to think at every step about all of the details for the entire solution all at once in your head. It's just too overwhelming to do that. So we're doing things top down. So we took care of get random number, we took care of get guess. Now it's time to take care of is correct guess. So how are we going to do that? Well, we have all the code for is correct guess already. That was written in Splunge. So why don't we just take advantage of it? I'm not exactly sure exactly how this is going to work, but I'm going to copy that code from Splunge into is correct guess. All right, and I'm just gonna just have it here, and then maybe we can work with it a little bit and figure out how to make it work for this method. I would say one thing is, if we leave it just like this right now, we've probably got 90% of the method already figured out, okay? But we got to figure the whole thing out. Okay, so is correct guess is going to get a guess and secret, all right? And so all these comparisons to figure out if the number is too high, the guess is too high, the guess is too low, and the guess is correct, all that stuff, that logic is all correct. So we don't have to change that. The one thing we do have to change, though, is there's an expectation that is correct guess is going to return a Boolean value. And this set of if-else statements doesn't do that yet. But what is it going to do? If the guess is correct, we're going to return a Boolean value of true. Otherwise, we're going to return a Boolean value of false. So all we have to do is inside each of these if statements, we have to add the correct return statement. We're either returning true or we're returning false. All right, so let's try that. If guess is greater than secret, then we're going to system out print line too high, which means is correct guess is false. It's not the correct guess. So we're going to say return false. If guess is less than secret, we're also going to return false. And if guess is equal to secret, we're going to return true. All right, so one of these three statements is going to get executed, either return false, or return true, right? If guess is greater than secret, we're returning false. If it's less than secret, we're going to return false. And if it's equal to secret, because if this final else is basically if it's not greater than secret and it's not less than secret, then it better be equal to secret. So we're going to return true. Another thing I want you to notice, so hopefully this will work. Another thing I want you to notice is this naming convention. It's very common in programming languages, if you write a method that returns a Boolean value, that you prefix it with is, because it is true or it is false. So is typically means that if the method is satisfied correctly, you're going to return true, otherwise you're going to return false. All right, so let's run this. Secret number is 9. Okay, guess the number 1 to 100. Let's guess 50. Oh, it's too high. Hey, that's pretty cool. It wants me to guess the number again. Let's guess 25. Oops, still too high. Of course, we know it's 9, but we'll keep playing along. I want to make the computer feel good. All right, how about 12? Still too high. How about 6? Too low. How about 9? Correct. Awesome. All right, so it seems like the program's working now. What else do I want to say about this that would be worthwhile? I think one thing that sometimes students have difficulty with is they're okay with methods like this where you're like, call a method, get random number, it returns a number. But they have some difficulty with methods like this where there's multiple arguments here, guess and secret. And the thing that gets confusing to students is, how does this mapping occur? How does guess here end up being guess here? And how does secret here end up being secret here? And then how does that stuff get used inside inside a method? And so the answer is pretty straightforward. So when we call is correct guess, let's say the user entered a guess of 50 and our secret number was 9. That's what we had in this example. So when we call is correct guess, what happens is the value of guess here, which is 9, value of guess here, which is 50, and the value of secret, which was 9, get copied into the is get correct guess method call. All right, so it's as if we just wrote this, is correct guess 59. And then when we make the method call, what happens is it's like we're doing a variable declaration here, int guess equals 50, so that 50 gets copied to this local variable called guess, and the 9 gets copied to the local variable called secret. And then the rest of this code plays out as if it was a regular program. So it's as if these are local variables that get copies of these values. That's how method arguments work. The cool thing is that these variable names, secret and guess, they don't even have to match the variable names here. So I'm just going to say that again. The variable names here that go in these arguments don't have to match the parameter names here. They can, all right, because of that mechanism that I just told you. If you, the way is correct guess actually operates is the variable guess and secret get replaced with their actual values, 50 and 9. And then those values get copied into the variables that are here and here. So in theory, what I could do is I could say this is, let's call this guess P for parameter and secret P for parameter. So now I've changed these names. They're not guess and secret anymore, they're guess P and secret P. So as long as I make sure that this is guess P and this is secret P, this is guess P and this is secret P, and that's pretty much it. As long as I make sure that these names here match the names of the variables that I'm using inside the method, then everything will work out just fine. And that's because the mechanism for making method calls copies values from variables in main or some other method, copies values into whatever the parameter names are that I have here. All right. So that's actually another really important point. Now, I think a lot of computer science professors often will deliberately change these names and keep doing that when they do example after example. But I actually really hate that. I think it makes things confusing because the name guess is a really good name for this first parameter, and the name secret is also a really good name for this second parameter because they represent guess and secret. It's just that this name guess and this name secret aren't the same as this guess and this secret. They're just different variables. We just happen to be copying values from variables with the same name here in the main program to variables with potentially the same name as parameters into this method. All right, so it really doesn't matter. You can call this guess P or guess as long as you've got the order correct. The first argument is the guess, the second argument is secret, and as long as you're clear that you want the first argument in the method name to be guess and the second argument to be secret, you can have any variable names you want here. All right, so I'm going to change it back to guess and secret because I just think those are clear, but remember they don't have to be here in the as the method arguments. Okay, cool. So I'm going to change this back from 50 and 9 to guess and secret. And let's just go back and run the program one more time. Secret number is 5. Oh, let's make it a little more challenging, right? Let's hide that secret number now. We don't want the user to know what it is. Let's play a real game, okay? All right. Compile and run this. All right, I don't know what the number is now. So we're playing it real, okay? The training wheels are off, folks. All right, 50. Too low. 50 is too low. Okay, 75. Too high. Okay, how about 60? Too low. All right, how about 70? Too high. Okay, how about 65? Too high. How about 63? Too high. How about 62? Correct. Okay, so the number was 62. So it took a few guesses to get there. Boy, it's a lot easier when you know the right answer, right? Okay, so good. I think that's a good place to stop for this section.